Hello class and welcome to Chapter 0 in Algebra. Again, this is some additional information that we wanted to cover before we jump into the actual Chapter 1 in our book. This additional information focuses on expressions, properties, and ratios. This particular video, Section 0-1, is going to cover expressions, variables, and order of operations. By the end of this video, you will be able to write verbal expressions for an algebraic expression, write an algebraic expression from a sentence, and use PEMDAS to solve numerical and algebraic expressions. An algebraic expression is a combination of numbers, variables, and at least one math operation. When we are talking about math operations, we're talking about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Again, numbers, pretty self-explanatory. Remember, we use letters to stand for variables, which is our second vocab word. Those show an unknown quantity. A term is a number, a variable, or a product of a number and a variable. So it could be a number, 5 is a term. It could be a variable, x, or it could be the product, which is multiplication of a number and a variable. So 5x, that is being multiplied together. If those were all being added, I would say that I have 3 separate terms being added. The first term, the second term, and the third term. A factor are quantities that are being multiplied. So another way to say this product here, 5 times x, those are the factors of 5 multiplied by x. Another thing I want to review quickly is exponents. Remembering that the meaning of exponents and what we are talking about here. The large part, in this case the x, is called the base number. The n up top is what we call the exponent. Reminder that what this means is the base. So for example, if my base was 5 and my exponent was 3, that does not mean 5 times 3. It means 5 times 5 times 5. So 5 to the third power would be an answer of 125. So it's that base number, and then the exponent tells you how many times you are multiplying that base number. So again, 5 to the third power, meaning 5 times 5 times 5. Some other things we want to pay attention to in this lesson are key words that symbolize each of our different math operations. For example, under addition, you might find the word sum, or plus, or more than. Increase is another common one, and total is another common one. Obviously, these are not the only words. If you remember, there's a poster in class that also has a summary list of these, but I am just highlighting a few key ones in this video. For subtraction, some of our key words could be minus or decrease. Difference is another very common one that you will see. Take away, and the phrase less than, which I will re-highlight this phrase less than later in the video. Multiplication, there are obviously more than I am going to list here, but some common ones include product and times. Those are the two biggest ones you will probably run across. And for division, we got quotient. You might see the word split or split into. You might see shared equally. You're talking about a group of people sharing things equally. They are dividing it among themselves. You might see cut up. Obviously, for any of these, addition, you could see add, subtraction, subtract, multiplication, multiply, division, divide. So again, this list is not extensive. There is the poster hanging up in my room, but this is just a quick refresher for you. Our first job in this video is going to be to translate from an algebraic expression to a verbal expression, aka a sentence. So I'm looking at this problem right here and I want to put it in words. There are a lot of different ways you can do this. I'm going to show you a couple right now. A first option would be to say 1/2 times A plus the quotient of 6 times B and 7. So that would be one way that I could write this sentence out. Generally, my advice to you is say the expression out loud, and that would be probably the best sentence that you could write. Another option for this one would be using phrasing like the sum to tell you that you're adding. So the sum of 1/2 of A and 6 times B divided by 7. Again, this is not the only two phrases that you could use to write out this expression. When you are asked to do this on homework or on a test, I only need you to write one sentence. I'm giving you a couple different options. One caveat that I want to mention is if the numbers are less than 10, you need to spell out the word. So notice how in both of my sentences, I spelled out 6 and I spelled out 7. If the number was 32, you could write 32. If it is 10 or less, you need to actually write it out as a word and not as a number. Go ahead, try this one on your own, writing a sentence for this algebraic expression. Here are 3 possible sentences. Again, yours does not necessarily have to match this, but this is the general idea of what one of these sentences should look like. Our next task is taking a sentence that has been written out for us and translating it into something we can solve, aka an algebraic expression. So for this one, it says 10 less than the product of 7 and G. So we want to go through and look for our key phrases. Less than is going to give us subtraction. Product is going to tell us multiply. What are we multiplying is being indicated by that and portion. So it is saying 10 less than the product of 7 and G. So we're taking away 10 from something. That something is 7 times G. As I mentioned earlier, I was going to say something about less than. If you see less than, the number is always going to go after the subtraction sign. So it says 10 less than, so 10 comes after the subtraction sign. So if you ever see the phrase less than, it goes after the subtraction sign. Go ahead and try to write an algebraic expression for this one on your own. You can either have 250p plus 30k, or vice versa, 300k plus 250p. The last part of this lesson is going to be reviewing PEMDAS. If you remember, that stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, adding, and subtracting. Remember, multiplication and division, those two can flip-flop. If division comes first in the problem, aka it's further to the left, you do the division first. Same thing happens with adding and subtracting. If subtracting is done first in the problem, then you would do it before the addition. So, going through this first example, we've got 16 minus 8 divided by 2 to the second power plus 14. Following PEMDAS, I have no parentheses, so my first step is going to be to deal with that exponent. 2 to the second power is 4. Yes, today I want you to show step by step how you are solving these problems in PEMDAS order. So we did 2 to the second power is 4. Now we look, there's no multiplication, there is some division. So we've got 16 minus 8 divided by 4 is 2 plus 14. Looking at our problem now, we are looking for addition or subtraction. In this case, the subtraction comes first in the problem. So we are going to do 16 minus 2, which is going to give me 14. And then we've got another 14 being added to that for a final answer of 28. This next problem, it is more complex than the first one. Again, I want you to follow PEMDAS order. So the first thing we do is the parentheses. I will allow you to do all the parentheses at once. So we've got 6 bracket 32 minus the first parentheses 5 plus 3, or excuse me, 2 plus 3 is 5. That's still in parentheses to the second power. Plus 4 bracket, another set of parentheses. 7 minus 5 is 2 to the third power plus 8. So we've done our parentheses. We are now going to solve the exponents inside that. So we've got 6, we've still got the bracket, 32, minus 5 to the second power means 5 times 5, aka 25, plus 4, bracket, 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, plus 8. Now we've solved the parentheses, we've solved the exponents. Now these brackets also stand for parentheses. So we're going to have to go through and solve those brackets. So we're going to end up with 6 and 7 plus 4 times 16. Both of those are multiplication, so we can do that in the same step. And we're going to go ahead and get 6 times 7 is 42 plus 4 times 16, which is 64. Adding up to get our final answer, we are going to end up with an answer of 106. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Again, make sure you are following the steps of PEMDAS. Solving inside the parentheses first, the exponent, 8 to the second power is 64. 7 plus 64 gives us 71. Then we come over to our multiplication. 7 times 11 is 77. 20 minus 71 is negative 51. Minus another 77 is negative 128. Last thing we're going to cover with our order of operations is making sure we remember how to plug in numbers for a variable. So in this case, 3x squared plus parentheses 2y plus z to the third power. If x is 4, y is 5, and z is 3. You need to go ahead. The first step you need to do is plug in your variables. So we've got 3 times x, which is 4. So 3 times 4 to the second power plus parentheses 2 times y, which is 5, plus 3 to the third power. All of that staying in your parentheses. After you plug that in, you're going to go ahead and solve using PEMDAS. So working inside my parentheses first. 3 times 4 to the second power stays put. Plus, inside the parentheses, exponents come first. So we got 2 times 5 plus 3 to the third power. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Still staying inside of the parentheses. We're going to keep working through our math, and we're going to do multiplication next. So we've got 10 plus 27. Then I'm going to go ahead and finish out those parentheses by doing 10 plus 27, which is going to give me 37. So we've dealt with everything inside of the parentheses. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to exponents. So we've got 4 to the second power, which is 16. Then we're going to do multiplication. 3 times 16 is going to give us 48. And then finally, 48 plus 37 gives us a final answer of 85. So again, plug in your numbers and then follow PEMDAS order. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Again, plugging in the numbers, working through solving in PEMDAS order, you get a final answer of 46. If you have any questions about this or anything else from the lesson, please don't hesitate to send me a message on Edpuzzle or ask me when you get to class tomorrow.